Hey, what's going on? It comes to be a Tuesday now, so it is just about the time of the week where you kind of think about what's going on in coronavirus. I guess now it's kind of going into later stages of this first lockdown in the US. So a lot of states are reopening, and pretty much I believe most states have, at least most states that I'm familiar with, have some sort of plan to start phasing into a reopening at the end of the month, which now is coming along to the end of May. I think around this time we see that the death toll has approached about 100,000 persons in the US from coronavirus, and this puts it at millions of cases across the US and whatnot. So it's pretty interesting to think about the situation. This is about 2 months of lockdown for most people, and I think kind of looking at workers, I think a lot of people are relieved that we can see reopening because a lot of people were just unable to work. And for some, this will result in layoffs, some delays in paychecks. Some people were able to transition to work from home. But I imagine this is kind of the story of two groups of people. There's a group of people who were able to work at home with no major problems with their lifestyle. And there's some people who just lost work. Employment rate is like incredibly high at 15%, but I think these are just people who like file for employment, so it's kind of hard to tell what's the true number of people who actually do not have jobs. And kind of looking forward, I mean, the impact on these people is incredibly harsh because I don't think we've done too much to kind of help these people. There hasn't been enough assurances in terms of income for these people. For the most part, we've had a stimulus check and maybe an additional benefit for them for unemployment. Other than that, pretty much bills and rent are about the same. So there is no real government policy for stopping those payments. It's a complicated issue in itself because really, if you don't pay rent, then homeowners may not be able to pay mortgages, and if you can't pay mortgages, then the government won't get tax money from the rent or property taxes, right? So this is kind of a complicated issue, but I think really the choice here was to let that burden fall upon the renters, which is not exactly a reasonable thing, I think, because I mean, just looking at it, it just it's kind of a disaster, right? 2 months of non-work. I mean, most people live paycheck to paycheck, kind of depending on their paycheck that arrives once every 2 weeks. And this is 4 paychecks without any payments. So I think there is a lot to be said about how we are going to go moving forward because a lot of people are going to be still hugely impacted by this result. But I think it's still nice that we can get people working again, and the reopening is actually kind of a good thing in their eyes. I mean, I think there's definitely a lot of fear of in terms of a second outbreak as a result of reopening, but I think you could say that there's a big consideration in terms of economic impact on individuals. I think the government could have done a better job in terms of finding income assurances or maybe delaying payments. I mean, I don't think that the choice to let the burden fall upon the renters is really the way to go because obviously the renters are the lowest income workers, and I mean that's really terrible to think about that we're just letting them fall upon people who are kind of least able to kind of protect themselves in this kind of circumstance. But so going forward, I hope we can be a little more optimistic, I guess, as time goes on, so we can get reopened and kind of get going in terms of life returning to normal, at least in terms of a stage by stage plan. And we'll see how it goes on. So I'll see you later.
Well, look at what we have here. We got a little bit of Karaage Setsuna again, a little bit of poutine on the left, Karaage on the right. But I like to decide to spice things up with some wasabi ranch. So, I'm going to have a lot of things to dip into that. So, lots dinner.